Hosting for the Dice Tower is generously provided by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff, in stock at coolstuffinc.com. Thanks for your support. The Dice Tower, episode 493.
The best of 2002.
Welcome to the Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, Tom is hungry, apparently, and tells us about a couple of pizza-themed games, and some others as well, plus a tale of betrayal, some questions from the mailbag, and our top 10 games from 15 years ago, 2002. I'm Eric Summerer, and here's your host, the Frodo to my Sam, Tom Vassell.
And I'm sure as I can guess at this point that this movie came out that year?
Well, The Two Towers did.
Really? The Two Towers is that old?
The Two Towers is that old. And then 2003 was The Return of the King.
I really think these movies hold up well.
They do. Good stuff. I'm still debating when to show them to the kids.
I think you could show them the Hobbit series.
I probably could. I don't know. I mean, like the Hobbit book is all sort of light and whimsical. The movie is a little more serious.
The movie is a little more serious. I'm trying to think. You could show them at least the first one, I think.
Maybe. I'll consider it.
I don't know. I'm always really cautious. You know, you don't want to be that parent who someone comes back later and they say, "You said it was good. Did you forget about such and such a scene?"
Yeah. There's always that one scene you're like, oh yeah, I remember being sort of freaked out myself in this scene. Oh well, he'll be fine. We are about to watch Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. We finished the book, and so we're going to watch the movie in an upcoming weekend.
My kids are tearing through those books. They are enjoying them so far.
Oh yeah, they're great.
I went back and reread book 7 just so I could kind of be on board with what's going on.
Yeah.
And I remembered how much I liked that book better than the movie. The other 6 I didn't care, but I liked book 7.
Book 7 was very good.
But you got to be careful with what you do with kids. Did I tell you the story about my in-laws and my son's birthday?
No.
Yeah, well, my in-laws are from China, okay? And so they're not getting all the American culture. They don't know everything that's going on in culture. Mm-hmm. So last year my son turned 2, and they decided to buy him a bear. They went to some Chinese place that sold bears, and they found a bear that when you pressed his paw, he would repeat what you said. So they came. My whole family's in the room. I mean, the entire family. We're all watching him open presents. He opens it. Yay, it's a bear. They're like, press the hand. And so I was like, this bear seems vaguely familiar. And I was like, oh, and it was too late. There's 2 hands on this bear. The one hand, yes, if you pressed it, would repeat what you said. Mm-hmm. The other hand would bring a line from the popular movie Ted.
Ted
is a an R-rated movie from the guy who did Family Guy, I think.
Yes, it is.
And Ted is not Dice Tower family friendly.
No, he's not.
And Ted told my entire family, including my extremely conservative in-laws, what they could do. So my kids looked at me, and I looked at them, and I said, well? And they were in shock because they still didn't know. And I was like, oh, this is Ted. Yeah, this is a mistake. So I cut the strings, the wires, into that particular paw.
There you go.
The other paw was fine, you know. He just repeated what my son said, which was considerably less vulgar than that.
Considerably less.
But it was a great moment because it wasn't my fault.
That is awesome. And I guess I wouldn't have thought of snipping the wires on the other paw. That was a smart idea.
Well, I might have snipped a lot of wires in my time when you're like, I will not hear that thing speak again.
That is true. I've done that to some watches in my day and alarm clocks.
It's not just that. I'm talking about kids' toys. You ever have one of these kids' toys where like, and in the middle of the night they go off and you're like, what is that? Mm-hmm. Who's in the house?
Yes.
That's the longest we've gone for a while without talking about games. We're talking about board games, folks. My name is Tom Vassell.
Hi there, I'm Eric Summerer.
I'm in a mood to eat.
To eat?
Not really, but I'm going to talk about some food games. But before I talk about food games, I believe, let me see if I have my calendar right. Do you have a calendar in front of you?
It's across
the room.
One
now. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So this show should be going up on the 31st.
Yes.
That is the last day of our fundraiser.
Wow.
So if you're listening to this show today, you should probably stop if you're considering backing us, even though we did already fund. And maybe we hit some of our stretch goals. Well,
Fingers still crossed? Who knows?
Yeah, I was surprised. It was an excellent week last week. And a big thank you to everyone. So this is the last show you'll hear us talking about our fundraiser.
Yes. Until we say, hey, all the rewards are going out.
Yeah. That's actually the next thing I got to do is get cracking on the rewards. The process for that is usually where I say, okay, so this is how many people want these things. Okay, so Dice Tower Company, this is how many of these Dice Towers I want. Dice Company, this is how much dice I want. Blah, 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 blah. That's where we go from there.
Sounds like a plan.
And then we wait for that stuff to come in. We shake down the other companies for their promos. Mm-hmm. And eventually it all comes in and we package them and send them off.
Exciting.
That's not as exciting for us. There's a lot of logistics that go into that. But it is exciting to be to that step of it, right?
Right. Well, it's exciting when they go out and then everyone gets excited to get their packages in the mail.
Right. Also, on a side note, some people have mentioned that they could hear Eric twice. Now, this is probably because his voice is that wonderful.
It is. Oh, no, that's not what it was.
But it might be because my headphones were leaking sound into my mic from Eric.
Yes. We've made some changes, though. They should be a little better now.
Well, I've turned my headphones way down, which is driving me nuts because my hearing is going.
Oh.
But hopefully this should work better. I like to hear your booming voice in my skull.
I'll try not to talk louder just for your benefit.
All right, so let's talk about some games. I should mention here Slack. A lot of people are joining Slack. It's a chat room. I don't think Eric has joined it yet.
I haven't joined the fan channel. No, I'm only on the business side.
Do you know that we're getting close to 1,000 people in the fan one?
Really?
Yeah, and there's like a constant game of code names going on in it. Huh. There is people asking me questions, which occasionally I answer. When I get because it's like really packed up. In fact, there's so many people on it now that it does not archive all the messages. It only archives back like I don't remember what the number is, 1,000 or something, which is not a big deal, likely, right?
Wow.
So I was like, oh, okay, I'll go in and I'll upgrade it. Well, the upgrading of Slack is $6 something a person per month.
Oh.
So if we had 1,000 users, that would be $6,000 and change a month for Slack.
I don't think we're doing that.
Oh, yeah. This is one of those times where I didn't go, sometimes like, can I afford that? No. Half our Kickstarter money gone so we can keep Slack running. No, we can still run Slack. It just won't have the archive, that's all. I haven't even upgraded Slack for our small Dice Tower group. We have like 60 people in that. Even that would be expensive, right?
Right, yes.
So anyhow, okay, so we're done with all that stuff. Games. I said I was hungry, so I want to talk about New York Slice.
This is the new one from Bezier Games.
Is New York pizza better, Eric? Or is Chicago pizza better?
Which do I like better? I think I'd go for New Haven pizza.
Cop out. But that's probably closer to New York.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it's the real thin pizza, the New York one.
Right.
And Chicago is a much thicker crust. They're both excellent, okay? I'm not criticizing either city, but I think I have to go with New York. And so, anyway, this game is actually a reprint from Bezier Games of an older game called Piece of Cake.
Oh.
Which is a game that I've wanted to be reprinted for a long time because it has one of my favorite mechanisms that's hardly ever used in games, and that's called
I split, you choose.
Or the opposite, yes. And so in this game, there's several rounds of the game. I want to say there's 6 rounds of the game, and you will randomly put 11 pieces of pizza together to form a pizza. And then one person is going to split that pizza into different sections equal to the number of players, which cannot be done evenly because there's 11 pieces. Doesn't matter if you have 5, 4, 3, 2 players.
Right.
It's very clever that way.
It is clever.
And but there's also, in this version, which is different than Piece of Cake, there's also a specials tile that's included. And this specials tile sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it gives bonus points at the end of the game, sometimes it gives you a special ability, sometimes you can keep the special tile and use it in the future to take a piece of pizza when a new pizza is created. And they have to put that on one of the sections. When a player takes a section, in that section are different types of pizza, from pepperoni to cheese to veggie, etc., etc. Each type of pizza has a different number on it from 3 to 11. When you take each pizza, you have to decide whether you're going to keep that piece of pizza. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most slices of each of those numbers will get that many points. So if I have 3 11s and Eric has only 2 11s, I will get 11 points at the end of the game. And each piece of pizza has pepperoni on it. So when I get it, instead of keeping it for majority, I can just eat it right now, and I'll get points at the end of the game equal to the number of pieces of pepperoni on it. There's also anchovies that float around, which are negative points. Unless you get the special style that says, I like anchovies, in which case they become positive points for that person.
Okay.
That's it. You know, you do this 6 times. But the thing is, when you split the pizza, you're the last person to pick. So you better do it fairly.
Right, or as fairly as you can.
I really enjoy this. Yeah, I like the pie theme. Piece of cake, piece of pie, whatever. I really like the dessert theme. I like the pizza theme, too. You know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. They're both good. The idea of splitting something and other people picking it is a great concept. As you sit there and you're like, oh, okay. And then when you get the pizza, should you eat each slice and or save it for majorities at the end of the game? And these special tiles, which were added, I was like, this game, we need more rules. But that's one nice new rule that actually works really well. Highly recommend it. It's a great filler. The game is very, very thematic. The pieces of pizza look like piece of pizza. They're shaped like that, too. They're shaped like a piece of pizza. And it comes in a box that looks like a pizza box. The rules look like a menu. And the score sheet looks like a bill that you would get at a restaurant.
Neat.
Yeah, the whole product is really well done, high quality, and this is one of those games that I would come really close to saying everybody should try it at least once. So a redone version of Piece of Cake, very nice quality game called New York Slice. It's from Bezier Games. Get it.
Slightly more epic than the filler you just talked about, Tom, is Ave Roma. This is a worker placement game wherein your workers are these Roman columns. The board is this big circular thing, and there's lots of different places where you can place your workers each round of the game. But the columns are numbered. You start out with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and different spaces on the board are only accessible to certain numbers. So you may be drafting cards or the ability to purchase cards if you have certain resources. And the first space in a row of these cards may only be accessible by the number 1 worker. And then the next one is 1 and 2, and then 1, 2, and 3, and then 1 through 4, and then 1 through 5. So for many of those cards, you have sort of different strength or ability workers that can get different sets of cards. But then other spaces give you more things based on what the number is. So there's one that gets you gold pieces. And if you put the number 5 worker there, it gets you 2 gold per number. And that's great to have higher numbers for that. Also, there are 5 provinces in the center of the board. And placing your workers in certain spaces allow you to interact with those provinces. They're numbered 1 through 5 as well. So if I place the number 4 on the resource collection space, then I go to the number 4 province and I get to collect those resources that are currently available in the number 4 slot.
So for clarification purposes,
yes,
when these numbered workers, it's not how powerful they are, it's where they go.
Yes. I mean, it depending on what space you're talking about, then there's a relative value amongst all of them. But it's where you can place them and what they interact with that is determined by their number. Now, after everybody has placed their 5 workers, there's going to be a drafting phase in which you can, in reverse turn order, grab all of the workers from one particular action location on the board. And because people have distributed them in different ways, that may be a totally different assortment than the 1 through 5 you started the game with. Like if I go to that gold location, where everyone got the money, they're all 4s and 5s there because everyone wants the best selection or best turnout. So if I choose that, I now have 4 5s and 4s in front of me. And we continue around in the drafting until everyone has 5 workers, and then we begin the next round. So that's the interesting little cycle that goes on with this game. You are ultimately trying to earn points, most of which come from these provinces. Every time you interact with one of these provinces in the center of the board, the first time you do something with it, the card is going to slide up. And sort of a little action space that slides up. And then the second time somebody does it, they have to pay some money, but they get that card into their score pile. And then a new one is drawn, and this is one of the timers of the game, is cycling through all of these cards that represent these provinces. But every time you add a new card or replace the card in a province, one little slider marker goes up, and I think it's got 7 spaces on one side. And this tells you how much that province can be worth at the end of the game, because another mechanism is getting these, military cards and other building cards and cards that let you push another majority marker and a little area majority aspect to this up another slider, but you can only push it up as far as the number of cycles that province has gone through. So the more cards that have cycled through a particular space, the higher the possible score is for that location. And so you're eventually working on these area majorities, but this is one of those games that takes a lot of churning to get things to happen. You know what you kind of want to do and what you want to focus on, but it's going to take a lot of effort to do so. You have to collect the resources you need, the money you need to buy the senator cards that are going to give you a bonus that's going to help you earn points later on, or to get the resources to buy the soldier cards or buy the building cards that you want. This is not a game where it's easy to do anything. And I enjoyed mechanically Ave Roma. I think it's interesting. It's certainly a crunchy game. It's a difficult game, a rewarding game when you manage to make things work. My issues with it are in its graphic design. There are 3 resources in that. No, excuse me. There are 6 resources in this game in 6 different colors. And cards will require you to have different assortments of those goods plus some money. And there are basically Hobbit-sized cards. And you're looking across the table on this circular board and trying to see what all these things cost. And you might have one of the green resources, another of the green resources, or simply a green dot that says either of the green resources as a cost for something. And then it's going to list money, and it lists it in individual denominations. So it'll list the singles as coppers, and then there's silvers that are worth 5, and there are golds that are worth 10, and they're all individually depicted on these cards. And even though I was right in front of the board, I couldn't easily tell what anything cost without standing up and leaning over. And maybe this is old man Eric starting to get all crotchety and grumpy, but I really felt there must have been a better way to depict these resources.
I love how you consider yourself to be crotchety and grumpy when you slightly are negative about a game.
This is where I was upset. It took away from my enjoyment because while there was enough to wrestle with just getting the mechanisms down and getting what I wanted to get done in this game, to have to wrestle with the graphical elements was annoying. And in fact, we played with the Kickstarter version of the game. There's a separate side to the board that has less beautiful art, like a much more washed out map feel, just, I think, for the purpose of keeping things a little cleaner so that you can focus on the cards more easily. The art's lovely. But it was too much. It was very difficult to understand, and even trying to pay attention to what my opponents were doing, no way, not a chance. There's just too much to pay attention to with these tiny little circular icons with all the resources. I was a little annoyed with all of that. And the rules had some gaps in there as well. It wasn't quite as clear as it could have been. So I guess those are minor quibbles. I did still enjoy Ave Roma. I guess it's a marginal thumbs up for me, but it's not perfect, that's for sure.
All right. That kind of like twisted halfway through your review.
Ooh.
Well, I don't know. I went and looked at it. I can't tell. It's hard to tell from your description and or looking at it what it does. It looks like Jace, just another soulless Euro.
You could probably call it that.
I'm not trying to. I mean, it might be good. I'm not trying to judge a book. Well, yeah, I'm judging a book by its cover. Whatever. You want me to judge your book not by its cover, then make the cover look good. Sorry, I'm tired of getting games that look boring. Seriously. You know what else? Stop producing games where you don't put a picture of the game on it. Why would you do that? Do you know how many games I get these days where I look in the back cover, I'm like, ooh, what does this game look like when it's set up? It doesn't say.
Yeah.
It has like a description. It is the grim future, or it is, whatever. That's great. I'm glad you got theme in your game. What does the game look like? If I was at the store, I would never buy a game that didn't show what the game looked like.
That's true. Yeah. Are you just getting a deck of cards in there? Are you getting a bunch of chess pieces?
Yeah, show me something.
What do they look like? Yeah.
Slap these people. Now I'm the grumpy old man. All right, let's talk about pizza. I like pizza.
Yes.
This is not New York Slice. It's a different pizza game called Paolo. This is from Quinid Games.
Okay.
And this is what games should do.
Oh.
Not because the game itself is great. The game itself is good. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just good, fun. But this game has you delivering pizzas in a city from your pizzeria, and you are biking or driving. I don't know what you're doing. You're getting these pizzas from one spot to another spot. That's great. It doesn't always have to be spice and cloth. And it can be pizza.
Okay.
I like that. So in this game, you are building your own little city in front of you, Carcassonne style. You have your pizzeria and you're building a city around it, and you are trying to deliver pizza to these different areas. You do so on your turn by placing a worker on a grid that's in the middle of the table, and on this grid are different tiles. When you place a grid on a tile, you can either take that tile and put that tile in your city, or you can basically discard the tile and take an action of the row or the column that tile's in. When you take an action, that action might be augmented by technology, basically. As you deliver more pizza, your technology goes up. So you can deliver more pizzas. You can deliver them farther from your place. You can produce more pizzas. So players will be taking actions that make pizzas, and you put them on your pizzeria. And they're little square wooden pieces that you put a sticker on them. I believe there's about 36 per player.
Whoa.
Yeah. Melody said, I'm playing this game because I stickered it. It took a long time to sticker the game. I don't think she thought that the game was worth the stickering.
Ah, okay.
I don't think she thought the game was bad, but she said that was a lot of stickering.
Okay.
So then once everyone's done, you take a total of 3 tiles and or actions, and you put them in your city. Then everybody bids on how many pizzas you're allowed to deliver each turn. It's kind of a weird bidding system. It's similar to games like Amun-Re, but it's not as clean as those games. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit weirder. But you bid, right? And then whoever bids the highest is going to get to deliver more pizzas. And then you deliver your pizzas, and then you go to the next round, and you do this 4 times, and that's the end of the game. But the game's scoring is pretty simple. Every pizza you deliver is worth a point, and then how far you've moved on the technology track will give you points. That's it. So it's very simple. The auction part almost feels out of place in it because there's only going to be 4 auctions over the whole game. So should you really drop a lot of money on them or what? It's a little confusing to figure out exactly how they fit into the rest of the game. It feels a little bit clunky at that point, I think. But the rest of the game is fine. I really like the idea of putting things in grids. I've always enjoyed that. And it's neat to see your little city built in front of you. But other than the auction and maybe taking a tile someone else won it, there is exactly zero interaction in the game other than those two things. You're building your own city in front of you and delivering your own pizzas. It's not a question of whose pizza you're going to deliver. In my city, you can only get pizzas from Vassal's Fast Pizza.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it. It's good. It's not great, but it does give me hope that we can use better themes than just this Renaissance trading nonsense. That's Papa Paolo. Paolo.
Paolo.
All right, Eric's right, probably.
I didn't realize there was supposed to be a theme to our reviews this week, so this has a totally different theme from Ave Roma.
Well, your first one didn't have a theme.
Ghostel or Ghostel. It's Ghost and Hotel put together.
Didn't this just came out a couple days ago? You must have just played this.
I did just play this. I was fast.
You are fast.
Sometimes I turn around reviews really fast. In Ghostel or Ghostel, I'm not sure. I think it's Ghostel. Ghost Hotel. There's a hotel.
Ghostel.
Maybe. If it's a hostel, I'm not sure. I'm going to say Ghostel. Ghostel. I'm going to say Ghostel. Anyway.
We may have spent too much time talking about this game, but at least people know the name.
So you've got a grid which represents a hotel. It's a 3x3 grid. And there will be guest cards placed in each of these slots at the beginning of each round. And each guest has a sort of a tipping point, their courage. And if a ghost, because you are all ghosts, you are up to 4 ghosts, and you're trying to scare these people. And if enough scaring is placed on these people, then they will run away, and whoever scares them the most will earn more points than the others. It is an area majority game, or, are you ready? It's a scarier majority game. Because
Future Eric, can you edit that out?
Sorry, Tom. No. So how do you influence these people? You have dice, and every round you're going to roll 3 dice, and that is the amount of scaring ability that you have. You have these nice little, adorable little ghost figures. Actually, not little, they're pretty big. And they get to they appear somewhere on the board, and they drop one of their dice. And then on your next turn, you move 1 orthogonal space to another guest, and you will scare them with a different die. And then you do a third one. You can even move back to the first one if you want to put more influence on that particular guest. And all of the players are doing this turn by turn until everyone has 3 dice out. And then you will score the people. And if they have been scared away, you score it, and each one has a certain number of points for first, second, and third/fourth place, because as long as you put at least 1 die out and the guest scores, you will get the third, fourth place points. And everybody scores points. If you did not scare that particular guest, all of the dice on that space go 1 pip down, which is kind of neat. So your influence is still out there, but the guests have calmed down a little bit. Then, the guests also have some special abilities. Maybe they can only be influenced if there are at least 2 dice on there, or some re-roll dice. It's a lot of different special powers. Then there is also their phobias. There's 5 different possible phobias in the game, and if you have a card, which I'll explain how you get those in a second, you can double your die's value by appealing to, or the guy that hates clowns, for example, and you say, I have a clown card, and it makes your scaring a little bit more effective, shall we say. So how do you get these cards?
Creepy.
Clowns are creepy.
To reinforce the stereotype, Ghostel.
Absolutely. And there's also, I think, snakes, and there's a bunch of them. You spend points to get these cards. So at the end of each round, you can buy up to 2 cards. They cost either 2 or 3 points. There are some that may give you additional dice to roll. You still only get to place 3, but you can roll, say, 4 or 5 dice and then pick the ones that you want to use. There may be one that lets you swap out one of your D6s for a D8. There's other rule-breaking cards. There's those paranoia cards that allow you to scare more effectively, but you're spending points. So if you spend too many of those things, yeah, you'll get an advantage, but you've let the other people behind you catch up a little bit. And that's just about it. You play until you run out of guests, and then whoever has the most points wins. I found it fun. It's very, very light because you're rolling dice, but I found it straightforward enough. It knows its weight and plays to that. It's chaotic for sure, because there's lots of ways to affect each other. You can put up ghost barriers and add paranoia to guests that didn't have them before. There's crazy stuff happening, but it only lasts 45 minutes or so. The art is fun. It's got these creepy pictures of scared guests, and the special powers make things interesting. The components are well done. This is the first game I've seen from this company, but they seem to know what they're doing. It's a solid box, solid components. The little ghost figurines are nice. I think it's a solid family game. I was a little worried when I looked at the box that it might be too scary for a family game, but it's not that. It's the fun kind of scary. Good for a Halloween game night, I would be pretty sure. I just wish I knew how to pronounce the name. Ghostel.
Stop it.
Ghostel. I liked it.
Yes, it looks really good. I'm anxious to get it played, although Eric has totally beat me to the punch on that one.
Woo! All right, well, I'm going to talk about Rum and Bones Second Tide. Now, I've talked about Rum and Bones in the past. I really, really enjoy this pirate fighting game where you have two ships of pirates, or sometimes more than two ships, depending on which pirate faction you're using. And you line them up next to each other, and then you have a bunch of crewmen who just basically keep spawning and running over to the other person's ship and attacking it for no reason at all. Which is fine, I think. It's from the MOBA games, which I'm not really into online, but they're extremely popular. In fact, I think the most popular game in the world, League of Legends, is one of them. So you have these guys, but you also have some heroes. And these heroes, you get to control them, and they run around and they have special abilities. Well, I enjoyed it. So this is the second version of it. I enjoyed the first version, but the second version is much better. Quick changes. In the original version, your hero started with powers that you would have to get money and then activate these powers with money. That's fine. But now, you start with only one power. When you get money, you buy or upgrade your powers, and then you can use that power as often as you want to over the course of a game. It's more fun. It has a sense of growth, like, ooh, now I got this big thing, ha, 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 type atmosphere to it. Now you pick your three heroes, and those are the heroes you have the same game instead of switching in and out like the old version had. And now you have three heroes and your crew, and you activate a hero, then it's your opponent's turn, and they activate their hero or crew, and you go back and forth till you've both activated all four things. That's a much faster system, right? It's better than Eric doing all his stuff, everything, and then me doing everything. It's a much cleaner back and forth. Boom, 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 boom. So I like that. And they're introducing a backwards compatibility kit that has all the stuff that you need for the old heroes to upgrade them so that they work in the new game. So there you go. It's really fun. Rum and Bones was already in my top 100. This just solidifies it. I love this very piratey theme. Rum and Bones Second Tide.
Last for me, my parents were in town this past weekend, and they wanted to play something with the kids. And I wanted to pull out a game that we hadn't played with them yet. And try out one of these from the library from before they were born, and see how it works. Because, eventually we have to decide if we're getting rid of these games. We brought out Ta Yu, which is the abstract tile-laying river building game. I've got the Cosmos edition. There have been other editions since then. In Ta Yu, you are laying these nice chunky tiles out, and you spread a river out from the center of the board, and it's a square grid, and you're playing in partners, at least in the 4-player version of the game, trying to get your sides of the board. So say I'm north and south, and you're east and west, and I want to get the river to tag north and south as many times as possible, and get it to tag your sides as little as possible. Each of the tiles has the river exiting on at 3 points. So really, no matter where you place stuff, the river is going to expand and spread out and branch out. You can never fully, occasionally you can, but rarely can you send something your direction without offering an opportunity for your opponents to send it in their direction as well. So there's lots of tricky decisions and difficult tile draws to deal with in this game. Why I want to mention it is that my son, at the end of this, your score is the product of the two scores on either side. So if it touches the east side 3 times and the west side 4 times, your score is 12. There's also some points along the side that double that particular score. And so eventually, one placement.
It teaches math, you're saying.
It does teach math, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it out for my 9-year-old and see how he responded to it. And it was a very, I don't know what kind of mood he was in, but it was a stark contrast from at the beginning of the game when he didn't really understand what was happening until we finally tagged two ends of the board and saw, now we're on the board. Now we have 1 point, 1 times 1, and then that becomes 2, and then 6. And then he started to get super excited about getting the thing to our sides of the board and keeping it away from them. And once he saw how the system worked, he got super excited about the game. I have no idea what the availability is of Ta Yu right now. If someone really wanted a copy, there are copies on Board Game Geek, obviously, but I think it's worth tracking down. It's a fun one.
I don't know, Eric. It may be fun, but I'm looking at the pictures of it here online, and every single picture I'm seeing of Ta Yu, the tiles look like they're from the 70s.
Okay. That's part of the aesthetic.
That's an awful aesthetic. Why can't we make it look nice?
Well, maybe this needs a new edition that does make it look nice.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would work really well. Because right now, I think when you look at it, you're like, boring. And it might not be boring, but I think it just has that idea. Like, are these rivers?
Yes.
Then why not make them look like rivers? Right now, they're 2 blue lines.
Right. Well, because the original edition, the one that we were playing with, the tiles they're like dominoes, basically. It's that kind of material and thickness.
Yeah,
and
I get that. And that dominoes can be really, really cool feeling, that backlight type feeling.
Right.
I don't know. I just think it could have been better.
I'm sure a new edition of this would I'm sure you could come up with a nice screen printing technique that would, be a little more colorful. Or it could use tiles. It doesn't have to be these, dominoes.
All right.
I like it. Ta Yu.
Cool. All right, well, let's get to some Betrayal.
Hello, I'm Skip Hampton, with yet another tale of betrayal. My playgroup and I were playing Battlestar Galactica. We had 6 players and we were playing with the Cylon Leader variant. The Cylon Leader player is known but might be trying to help either side. This means there were 2 hidden Cylons and 1 revealed Cylon Leader, with the other 3 players being humans. The game begins, and after a few rounds it became obvious that Ben, a new player in our playgroup, was struggling. This was his first time playing Battlestar, and he had picked up the rules quickly but still seemed unsure. The reason soon came to light. He was a Cylon. A bad situation for a new player who hadn't fully grasped the game amongst players who had quite a few plays under their belts. Fortunately, in Battlestar, it can still be advantageous to reveal yourself as a bad guy and then openly try to win the game without having to hide. He reveals himself, and the Cylon Leader, Adam, says that he will help Ben in any decisions he was unsure about, practically announcing himself fully on the Cylon side. The game was an even battle past the halfway mark, but the fact that there was still one last Cylon hidden amongst us soon became a problem. Occasionally, tests were failing, even when the 2 known Cylons didn't participate. I fell under suspicion, as most of the cards' failing checks could easily have come from my set of cards. Kyle, a relatively experienced player of Battlestar, decided to use his character's ability. He could look at someone's collection of loyalty cards to see if they are a Cylon or not. He chose me. I handed over my collection of 3 loyalty cards, and he declared me human. With only 3 players now with unknown loyalties, and only one of them possibly bad, we could try to deduce the remaining Cylon. Despite this, the hidden Cylon among us was still going strong. We couldn't keep track of who it could be. The results contradicted themselves every time we thought we had a solution. Despite this, the game played out fairly evenly between both sides. The final round started, and the Cylons were very close to winning, but the humans only needed a couple more turns to win themselves. If we could just hold out until my turn, I could guarantee the human victory. My turn comes around, and all I need to do is activate a space to end the game. Normally, this would require a roll of a d8, and in our situation, the humans would lose on any result lower than a 7. My ability, however, allows me to discard a card and add 2 to its value instead of rolling. So I just needed to discard a 5 card or higher. I moved to the space and announced my intention, holding up a card in my hand that I had saved for this turn. The Cylon players groan and the human players cheer as I reveal and discard a 1. There was an uproar. No one can understand why I had done that. Even the Cylons who won as a result couldn't understand. Had I discarded the wrong card? Was I messing with them? I just laughed and revealed my loyalty cards. There on top was a Cylon card. I had been the last Cylon all along. I had known I had to keep hidden after Ben had revealed himself, so I could disrupt the game as much as possible. But I had gotten careless. I had fallen under suspicion and nearly panicked when Kyle looked at my loyalty. I had prepared to defend myself before revealing the truth on a future turn, but he had said I was human. We all looked at Kyle. Had we accidentally put in one too many Cylon cards? Was he in fact too a Cylon? Kyle looked back at us miserably and revealed his loyalty. All human cards. He had looked at my loyalty cards and somehow completely missed the one that clearly stated, "You are a Cylon." Kyle's mistake had given me the perfect cover to plummet all tests without anyone even considering me as a suspect. Fortunately, everyone saw the funny side, but we won't ever let Kyle forget his mistake. This is a tale we love to tell anyone we are playing Battlestar, as it is a strong lesson that we can carry into all of our games. Always take time to look properly at loyalty cards, especially if they're mine. Okay. Bye.
Hee 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 hee. Hee hee hee.
I don't know if this is like inadvertent betrayal.
Yes. It's called What Were You Thinking?
Yes.
Because he's sitting there
and looks at the cards and gave that out. But I've had this happen in games before where someone sits and I'm like, how could you possibly... No, this doesn't make any sense. And later on they're like, oh, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's not like he can go, wait a minute, let me see those cards again.
I'm sure this has happened to all of us at some point. How many times have you played a game and then suddenly you realize that because you misunderstood something, you are playing completely differently than you should be?
Mm-hmm. There's that sinking feeling. I know it well.
I have that sinking feeling even when I do understand the game completely. All right, let's get to some questions.
Mr. Vassal. Tom Vassal. Will there be a Dice Tower theme park?
If you were a die, what sort of die would you be?
Will there be a Vicious Fishes movie? And now the Dice Tower will authoritatively, definitely, possibly, maybe, answer your questions.
Tom, which way to the bathroom?
Ryan says, what are your thoughts on boards that designate spots for decks of cards like Pandemic versus boards that expect you to figure out where the card should go like Battlestar Galactica?
I like when they tell me where to put them, because then I know I've got it sorted properly.
That's all you have to say?
Yeah, more or less. I thought they told you where to put the cards in Battlestar Galactica. Aren't there little colored slots along the sides?
Yeah, but they're like on the side of the board, I think. Yeah, I think you're right.
Maybe not all of them. I know that the colored cards are like that. Maybe oh boy, it's been a while. I can't remember the names of the decks, but the larger card decks.
It doesn't matter the game. There are definitely games where you just put cards all next to the board.
Right.
Like Arkham Horror.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly for table space. I guess it doesn't really make a difference, because if you make a larger board, then that will take up more space for the cards. But I like having places for the cards on the board, especially if they're thematic. Like if there's a picture of a stable and I put the stable cards over there, and that's kind of neat. Yeah,
it is, and I like it too. I don't know that I like it that much more, but I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like, and this has happened at least 10 games in my life, where most of the cards are on the board.
Mm.
And then they're like, and this deck, put near the board. And I'm like, what? You couldn't find space for that deck?
Right.
And that has happened more than once. And every time it happens, it's disconcerting because you're like, okay, the ability cards go there, and the event cards go there, and the floop cards go. Oh, well, put them over there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Are we missing it? Is there a spot these are supposed to go in?
Yeah, exactly.
Are these? Is this a Kickstarter stretch goal?
It's a Kickstarter exclusive special spot to put the cards.
It's on the other side of the board.
Lisa asks, at this time of year when I'm trying harder than usual to lose some weight, I find gaming can be a challenge. With my group of friends, I am lucky to be able to have 2 to 3 sessions a week, but we routinely have lots of snacks, cookies, tortilla chips, and of course beer on offer. Snacks seem to have become part of the gaming ritual. I do try and not have any and sometimes bring fruit, but it's hard with so much temptation. How do you guys manage, since so much of your time is effectively game night?
Oh, since so much of my time is game night, I mean, when I'm gaming at home and stuff, I just don't have the snacks near the table. That's easy, right?
Yeah.
When I'm out gaming, I always try to have water, if possible, because drinking water will keep you from eating snacks, and it's a healthy thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep drinking a lot of water. Every time you think about eating a chip, I'm like, I'll drink some more water. Or I bring a healthy snack with me, or whatever. What do you do, Eric? Eric just eats the unhealthy snacks.
I don't have as many game nights. That helps. I tend not to be terribly healthy on game night. I'll try and pick the healthy snacks when they're available. Try and slow down, switch to water at some point after a couple of sodas. But yeah, I don't have as many game nights and try and be a little more healthy the rest of the week so I can have my General Tso's chicken.
That's a really good choice. All right, Steven says, why are some publishers such as Fantasy Flight stingy with components such as dice, giving you the absolute minimum they can get away with, but others such as GMT are oftentimes generous, not only providing as many dice as you could ever want in that game, but sometimes giving you a spare die so you can better color coordinate to the scenario.
Huh.
I don't know what game you're talking about there, but all right. This doesn't even seem to correlate to the general component quality of the publisher, so what's going on here? Well, first of all, I agree with you all. It's starting to get wearisome, especially Fantasy Flight. It's the biggest culprit of this, where they give you just enough dice.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to pass them all around the table, and then conveniently, a month later, they say, hey, we're selling a dice pack.
Yes.
And you're like, thanks. And I always buy the dice packs because I don't like to pass the dice all around the table.
Well, if you're talking about custom dice, those are a pretty significant expense, right?
They are, but not as much as you might think.
Okay.
But
that's not the same as throwing an extra standard D6 into a box.
But the deal is this. The bigger the company is, the more they have to watch their costs.
Right.
Right? This is just like all the people complain that Fantasy Flight doesn't do custom inserts. Custom inserts are extremely expensive. They're extremely expensive, and not everyone uses and or wants them. And it doesn't really hurt the game not to have them in there. So they'll cut that out. They'll cut corners. Now, you can argue whether a company should cut corners or not. And the companies that do provide the extra stuff, that's always cool. I have like 30 extra trains for Ticket to Ride. Because every copy of Ticket to Ride I ever get always has, for each of the different types, always comes with like 2 or 3 extra trains, right?
Right.
For each color. To the point where you have to count them to make sure that you don't have more trains of one color than another.
Yes, did I accidentally put the extra trains in with the mix? Yes.
And that's fine. That's cool. I like when companies add extra pieces. But I don't necessarily blame them when they can't. I think sometimes it just comes down to money. Sure, GMT does it more often than other companies, but GMT also only produces 1,000 of each of their games. So, I don't know. I'm hesitant. Don't get me wrong. I'll grumble along with everybody else about not having enough dice in a Fantasy Flight game. In fact, I was playing a game today, and I was like, I wish they had provided more dice for this game, blah, 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 blah. But I don't know that it's... Every component you add in a game is an extra thing to add.
Yes.
It costs extra. So some companies are cutting the costs, and you can yell at them or say they don't care about the customer, but, you know, I don't know. What would I do in that situation?
You have plenty of dice. You'd throw in dice.
Oh, I always throw in dice, but yeah, the custom dice, though, is where the problem comes. If it's just D6s, oh, that's not happening. Any game I open where there's like 1 D6 and pass it around a table, I'm like, nope.
No.
Before we even start this game, stand up. There's a reason I keep 10,000 dice here on the wall. I don't know why you're laughing. That's an important thing to have. Everyone should have 10,000 dice, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the round number suggested.
I think that my dice, though, take up less space and are more organized than some people's game collections.
Quite possibly.
New Year's resolution. Stay strong, Eric.
Stay strong.
All right, let's get to our top 10.
It's a Dice Tower Top 10!
The Dice Tower's Top 10 list is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.
All right, 2002. Now, every year we go back 5, 10, and 15 years, although starting this year, we will also go back 20.
Wait, what?
I know! We're breaking all the rules. But, essentially, I like to do these because it's good to go back and look at these. For me, 2002 was the year that I got heavily back into gaming. 2002. What about you? Where were you at this point?
This is very much into my initial frenzy in trying all sorts of new things, buying up a whole bunch of games for the collection. This is maybe the first wave of new games that I was getting into. Like, ooh, you know, this one just came out. I'm going to get this one. Oh, boy. But a lot of these, I guess a lot of these were still, maybe more established. The frenzy around these, the hype around these new releases is just when I was getting into the hobby.
Yeah, so we really kind of got into the board gaming hobby at a very similar time.
Mm-hmm.
Although we did not know each other existed.
We did not.
It was sad. How things could have been different.
Well, you did put a comment on my blog about my trip to Japan once, and I was like, ooh, Tom Vassell commented on my webpage.
All right, I didn't make a top 10 in 2002, but I made one in 2005, and I think Eric and I also did one.
We did one 5 years ago.
Oh, we did one 5 years ago. That was our 10 years list. Wow, boy, does time really fly.
I know. We're doing these, second time around lists, at least for me.
So I'm looking at my top 10 list, and I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of the games are off.
6 of them have left.
Yes. So there's been a change in the past 10 years, I guess. Or 12 years?
Mine have settled pretty significantly. I think my top 3 stayed the same. And then the next 4 were on the list last time, and the bottom 3 are new.
Well, there's got to be some things said for the year 2002. 2002 was a pivotal year, I think, because 2002 brought in the success of the heavy Euro game, I think. Or I guess nowadays they're considered medium weight Euro games.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to debate that to the end of time. But it kind of brought a couple games to the forefront. The most popular games were not Catan, were not light games.
Right.
Although this was the year Killer Bunnies came out. So
it's true.
Want to be excited about. Here's another interesting thing. Eric and I have a total of, 3 games crossover.
Yeah.
Which is, I thought we would have more.
Maybe. There's a number on yours that I haven't played.
Well, there's 3 of Eric's that are in my top 15.
Okay.
That did not make my top 10. And there's one of his that would have been in my top 10 easily in 2002, but has since been replaced quite soundly.
Got it.
Let's get started.
Let's do it.
Number 10.
I'm going to start with Monkeys on the Moon. This is another one of the new additions.
Wait, you played this recently?
No, I played it in 2002 when it was out.
Oh, okay.
It's just things have shuffled and I've, opinions change and some of the other ones dropped down off the list. Anyway, Monkeys on the Moon is not much for production value. The components are I think there's like hobby wheels and stuff. It's very small press. But it makes up for it in interesting mechanisms and humor. You are influencing various tribes of monkeys in 6 different colors. There's this wheel of influence, and so you've got, say, the green tribe, and the 2 tribes that are next to it are their allies, and the one all the way across from it is its enemy, and there are cards that influence, the purple or one of its allies get some influence and get some points. And you were eventually trying to get the monkeys to score and send them on rocket ships. It was fun, it was cute, and the cards say stuff like, this tribe has learned to use the bongos. And I think that deserves some recognition. Monkeys on the Moon, my number 10.
This was actually on my short list. It's kind of an interesting thing, the whole, what company made these? I think Scott Starkey was the designer.
Was this Dancing
right?
Eggplant, or was that something else?
No, this wasn't Dancing Eggplant. Actually, maybe it was. I'm looking it up.
This was the same company that did the Nacho incident?
8-Foot Llama.
8-Foot Llama.
And Scott Starkey was the artist. Jim Doherty was the publisher. And if he had been around today, this would have definitely been a Kickstarter company.
It would have been.
They did 5 games: Who Stole Ed's Pants, The Penguin Ultimatum, The Nacho Incident, Monkey on the Moon, and Lifelinks. Well, Lifelinks looks like maybe that one was never published. But the other 4 games, I've played all 4 of them, and all 4 of them are okay.
Yeah.
Monkeys on the Moon, though, is easily the best.
Agreed.
It's a great theme. It really is.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and it has some pretty good mechanisms. So, good choice, Eric.
Yay!
Good choice. I'm also going to pick a game that's by a smaller company. Well, back in 2002, they were all the rage. The game is Agora, although it's been recently reprinted maybe 3 years ago as Camden. And this is a tile-laying game. From the original company, Chiapas Games, was James Ernest. This was a game in which you were creating the marketplace of ancient Greece and laying these down and trying to build different stalls in different configurations to get points, and then every once in a while fires would come and other things and burn down some of the stalls. But what made this game unique was it was a tile-laying game where you could pretty much lay them down any orientation you wanted to. So you would be putting them diagonal or kind of squeezing them in between other cards, doing what you can to build this really weird market, which looks like one of these markets would look, actually. That's unique. I've never seen it done in any other game before or since, so I really enjoyed it. Agora. Or the modern version, Camden.
Number 9.
My number 9 is called Modern Zeiten, or Modern Life, I think it's called. Oh, no, Modern Times, that's right. It's an auction game with cool little zeppelins, and it's a closed money system, so you are playing, you auction off various city tiles and various technology tiles, and if you win, you're paying the other players so that they have gained money while you've lost money, and manipulating that system is of import. And you've got, I think, different technologies as well as different cities and getting majorities. So I may really be interested in the Paris tiles, but you may be interested in a particular technology tile. Interesting stuff. I enjoyed it. Modern Zeiten, my number 9.
Who's the publisher of that one?
Oh, that's a good question. Future Eric, what?
Who's the publisher of that one?
Oh, yeah, the publisher was Jumbo.
All right, my number 9 is Mexica. Now, Mexica was definitely not in my top 10 in 2002. This one had come out on the heels of Tikal and Java, and then there was Mexica. And I was like, oh, yeah, here's the not nearly as good brother of the amazingly but AP-inducing Java, and the wonderfully thematic and intriguing Tikal. But Mexico was recently reprinted a few years ago by Yellow Games.
Few years, wasn't it last year?
Okay, well, time is... Yes, it was last year.
Okay.
Well, was it last year? Maybe it was end of 2000. Whatever. If someone's listening to this in 2020,
yes,
it's been more than a few years.
Future listener, it was a few years ago.
And decades ago for you apes who have found this recording. But anyhow, time travel, My kids are going to find this and use it to piece together Anyway, I'm in a time travel mood. But anyhow, Mexica is a area control game in which you are building the areas that you control with canals and then putting down different size buildings to control them. It's very mean, actually. It's in your face, very back and forth, scales well. I played it and I was like, why did I not like this as much? I think I didn't like it because it was like the third in the mask series, they called it, because each of the boxes had a big mask on them.
Right.
And it wasn't like the other two at all, and I was kind of like, I don't like this one as much as the other two, and I was comparing it to only those two. But I think this one may have stood the test of time the best over the years. That's Mexica, I guess.
Mexica was my number 11. It just barely missed it. I enjoyed playing this somewhat recently as well, and sort of rediscovering it. Good stuff.
Number 8.
My number 8, I'm very interested in talking about, but I see that Tom's interested as well, so I'm going to put a chip on it and hope I win the auction in the future.
Oh, it's no thanks. All right. My number 8 is Stratego. Not really. It's Lord of the Rings Confrontation, which is kind of like Lord of the Rings Stratego. It really is. In this game, one person is playing the light side, the other person is playing the evil guys, and the one person has to get Frodo to the other end of the zone without getting him killed. And when you do that, you move a piece into another piece, you compare numbers, and the higher number wins. Except that the bad guys, the Shadow, has way bigger numbers. But the good guys have really cool special abilities that might just let them get through. It's really well done. It's designed by Reiner Knizia because he was really in his prime in 2002. And it was released a few years later from Fantasy Flight Games in a deluxe edition that had different characters you could choose. But whether you get the original basic one or the deluxe version, it was really good. It was my number 10 a long time ago. I still think it's an excellent game. That's Lord of the Rings Confrontation.
I haven't played this one. The closest I came was we were at a timeshare and found a copy in their library next to the pool in the humidity, and it didn't have any instructions. But the pieces look nice.
Is your friend.
Yeah, spotty internet connection.
You should have read Tom Vassel's review.
Should have.
Number 7.
My number 7 was my number 4 last time, and that's Clippers, a game about creating shipping lines. You all branch out from one corner of the board, and you're trying to send these shipping lines to various islands, sort of tag them, and you're also exerting influence on these islands, but you need to do so often before the shipping lines get there. So there's sort of a gambling aspect to this. You're putting down your marker and saying, I know that this shipping line's going to get here, and the more lines you get there, the more points that island's going to be worth. But if you overinvest, then the other players have lots of incentive to steer the lines away. There's action selection elements there. Components, there's some missteps. They're very tiny markers and stuff, but still, interesting system in Clippers, my number 7.
This was my number 3 last time, but has dropped off my top 10 because I would not say the component issues are minor. I think the component, I can't deal with them anymore. And that's because in this game, you have little flag tokens that really look like they are tokens that you would punch out of a game and then throw away because you need the holes.
Right. I think the holes I punched out of Potion Explosion are larger than these.
So they're really tiny, and you need to use them to mark your thing on the board. I believe I replaced mine with cubes. When Vassal's replacing a component in his game with cubes, you know there's a problem.
Yeah.
But it is an intriguing game, and I'm actually going to try to pin Alan down this year and see if there's any plans to bring this one back because I know he was frustrated that the component quality was so poor, because that really affected the reception of this game.
It also doesn't have a score track.
Yeah, this was before Ticket to Ride came out, so he hadn't yet. He was a well-known name because of Elfenland and such. But Clippers could have been a big game, I think.
Yeah.
But the component problems just killed it.
Okay.
All right, my number 7 is Pirates Cove. Oh, Days of Wonder was just coming into the picture. This was actually, I want to say maybe Days of Wonder didn't publish the game in 2002.
Like there was an earlier
now.
version?
I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. Pirates Cove is a great game. Great game. Pirates Cove is a pirate game that's, the silly fantasy-style pirate theme. And in this game, each turn of the game, you pick which island your ship's going to sail to. Hopefully you don't sail to the same island someone else goes to, because then you have to fight. Each person has a big ship card with rings on it to keep track of how many cannons and how many sailors you have, and you roll dice and have fun fighting each other. Or you go to an island and then you can get treasure and then go bury treasure, and you can go get upgrades to your ship that will make you better in fights. Or sometimes you'll fight an actual mean pirate like Blackbeard or something to that effect. It's silly, very light fun. Takes about 45 minutes to an hour. Great components. It's, simultaneous selection where everyone's going to go, and a little bit of fun shooting each other's ships up and then rebuilding your ship, etc. I really enjoy this game. It's unfortunately mostly out of print at this point, but if you can find a copy, check it out. Pirates Cove.
Number 6.
Every time I mention my number 6, which is Seen It, it was my number 9 last time, Tom says something to the effect of, yeah, I never played that. One of these days I'll have to try that. Seen It is a DVD.
It's too late now, though.
Is it? Why?
Because I no longer do DVD stuff.
Oh.
I'm now into the streaming/downloadable section of my life.
Oh, okay.
I've missed out on DVD games.
I'm sorry. It's a DVD trivia game that uses movie clips. The original version was just straight-up movies. There's TV editions, Star Wars editions, Harry Potter editions. I'm sort of collecting as many editions as I can, all in one box, so I have every mover possible. But anyway, Seen It uses video clips, some real-time puzzles, sort of Wheel of Fortune style things. It's a great team activity, team party game. Feels a lot like a game show. Good stuff. Seen It. My number 6.
I was actually going to say, one of these days I got to get around to playing this game.
Yeah, well, I think you should, actually.
All right, my number 6 was Eric's number 8, and that is Mogul. Now, Mogul was just reprinted last year by Rio Grande Games.
Yes.
It's actually better, nicer version. The original Mogul was never even brought to America, I don't believe.
Really?
No, it was just that little small box. I forget the company that made it, but it was a European game.
Wow.
And it was really intriguing because there was 3 games, and if you put all 3 boxes together, they made a picture.
Right.
Except Mogul was pretty much the only one worth getting. But still, it was a really neat concept.
Right.
And I really have a lot of fun with this game because you're bidding for stock, and the way for bidding is you got to put a chip on the card to stay in to bid. But at any point, you can drop out and grab all the chips on the card.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy after you, who was also thinking about dropping out, now has to decide whether to drop out and get nothing.
Right.
Or to keep throwing chips on that card and stay in. It's a great bidding system. I'm still surprised that this bidding system is not used in more games. It's used in No Thanks in the opposite way because you don't want you're bidding to not take the cards.
Right.
In this one, you're bidding to take the cards, but it works really well. And the new updated version smoothed out a few of the wrinkles the old game have. This is just a great stock market short game, but feels like it has some depth to it.
Yeah.
Mogul.
This one still holds a special place in my heart because this was one of the games I played on my first day at my game group. We invited over to the guy's house. Oh, let's try some stuff. And this is one of the ones we pulled out. And I still remember a great time being had by all. Neat auction system, neat game. And I have really considered getting that new Rio Grande edition. Good stuff. Mogul, my number 8.
Number 5.
My number 5 was my number 5 last time, and that's the social deduction gunslinging game Bang. Best with more players. You want to get as many rolls out as possible, but there is that tension when you get down to the last few players, which one's the renegade, which one's the loyal deputy. It's a good time. My family still really enjoys bringing this out and announcing how a beer will save everyone if you're shot. Bang, my number 5.
Bang is one that I believe, let me see, was it on my list? I'm pretty sure it was.
Probably.
Yeah, it was my number 7. It's just been replaced by so many games. I like Bang. You could wrangle me into playing it, but there's so many different of these hidden roles, do things other people, that to take that aspect of Bang, which is the playing the Bang cards and stuff, I don't know. I think I like Cashing Guns better. I feel like that's definitely done it. The Shadow Hunters I enjoy better. There's a lot of games that do this a similar thing. Oh, and even Bang the Dice game.
True. That doesn't mean it's a bad game.
No, no, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying it's not on my top 10 anymore because I just don't play it, and I probably never would, so it drops off for that reason.
Okay.
My number 5 is a game that I definitely did not play in 2002. Didn't play it probably for a few years because I think it was in Japan for a while, and that's Magical Athlete.
Yeah.
Magical Athlete may be not only the best design game of all time, but graphic-wise, I don't believe you can find a better game. I think that's what I meant to say.
I can't argue at all with that statement.
Yeah, Magical Athlete looks like they designed it in MS Paint.
Yes.
And the game is really just an idiotic idea. You each have athletes that you run around a course. How do you do that? You roll a die.
Yep.
First person to the finish line wins.
Yeah, it's a roll and move game.
It is. But each person has a special power, and how those powers interact is what makes the game hilarious.
Yes.
It's still not a super strategic game.
It's practically a gambling game. I mean, you're auctioning to take control of these characters, and then you set them loose, and you hope that your special power beats their special power, and maybe you get across the finish line first.
I love this game so very much. It's not, it's one of those almost guilty pleasures, but every time I go to a convention, I think I play a game almost every Origins, and it's silly, it's funny, and everyone just has a good time at it, and I think it could be repackaged and resold with better graphics and stuff.
That would be fun. I like this one as well. It was on the short list, although I was, like you, a little confused as to why it was on the 2002 list, because I don't think the Z-Man edition came out for several years.
I want to say 2005, actually. I don't think that it was that much later.
Okay.
But it was close.
Good times, though.
Number 4.
My number 4 is going to show up on Tom's list very soon, so I'll just take the one with the extra coin on it.
My number 4 is a game I like to see get reprinted, and I've heard rumblings that it might be at some point, and that's Fist of Dragonstones. This is another Days of Wonder game. In fact, this was the first Days of Wonder game that I never heard of the company until I played this game. They had done Gang of Four beforehand, but Fist of Dragonstones from Bruno Feduzzi is an auction game in which you are trying to win Dragonstones. That's how you win the game, is by getting these different Dragonstones.
Do you get a whole fist of them?
You can. Well, you're actually bidding with a fistful of coins to get these. And you have two types of coins. You have fairy gold, and then you have regular gold. When you bid regular gold, it's gone forever, but at the beginning of every round, you get all your fairy gold back. And then there was another currency of silver. You have silver coins, too. And that's only if you tie someone, then you bid your silver coins. So some people are not going to like this game because it's a blind bidding game. And if you bid a lot and you lose, that money is still gone. Some people hate that, and I can understand that. But then what you're bidding is on for different roles. Think Citadels and things like that. And then oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong. I'm sorry. What I meant was think Libertalia.
Oh, okay.
And games like that. And then you use these special abilities to get Dragonstones. And then when you get certain Dragonstones, like if I get 3 Dragonstones of the same color, I can turn those in to get a point, and the first person to get 3 points or something wins. It's fun. It's entertaining. I really enjoy it. I like to see like a somewhat streamlined version of it come out. But I don't know. I think I like it slightly better than Citadels. They came out very close together. That's Fist of Dragonstones.
Number 3.
Now we get into the period where my opinion hasn't changed much. My number 3 was my number 3 5 years ago. It's Cathedral. This is a lovely little game. With map tiles that you sort of draft at the beginning, and you've got farms that collect resources, and you can build fences to block off your opponents from getting certain resources, and you've got your workers, they're all numbered, and they come out in a certain order, and you're placing them out on the board. So if we share a field, I might put my guy out on the field. Now, you can't use that field. Really sort of nasty game in many ways, but a good bit of fun. Cathedral, my number 3.
Yeah, I really like Cathedral a lot. This was probably my number 11. This is another one that I'd love to see a reprint of.
Yeah, there was a reprint. Certainly, there was an edition after the first edition. But that was
that's true.
At least 5 years ago.
It's the only game I know of that has octagonal tiles.
Yes.
All right, my number 3 is higher on Eric's list, but being higher is not better.
Number 2.
That's really good. Yeah, because my number 2 and Tom's number 3 is Pueblo, where you are trying to hide your colored chunky blocks from the observer that is circling around all of them. And the higher you go, the more negative points you'll get when he spots your pieces. It's a good bit of fun. And I also like that there's, the basic version of the game, and then you can add these sacred sites that block off certain parts of the board. You can add them.
If you hate each other, yes. No, it's really good to add those sacred sites in, but they sure make the game harder.
It does. And now all of a sudden it's a lot more difficult to hide your pieces. There's a bidding variant for turn order that makes things so you can play a very simple family version of this, or you can make it a very cutthroat, as if it weren't already cutthroat, but very cutthroat gamer's game if you want to go that route. I tend to like the easier version. I don't want to get it that nasty. And it's one that I think my kids did at least take a stab at last time this hit the table. Pueblo, great game, my number 2.
I would add 1 or 2 sacred sites.
Okay.
So it's not like super easy, but it adds a little bit of, you're going to see more things on level 3 and 4. I just like the idea of this guy walking around a city, and if he sees your thing, you're going to get points, and you don't want points.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's just a really enjoyable abstract strategy game. The chunky 3D blocks don't hurt at all. Mm-hmm. It's one of those games, if I'm at like a convention, I see it in the library, I'm thinking,
I could play that.
Yeah, I could, because it doesn't take a long time either. It feels in depth, and every time I teach it to people, they're like, well, I never heard of this game before. That's because it came out in 2002.
Yeah. If I were to reprint this one, I would hope that they'd put a turntable in.
Oh, yeah. Turntable would be good.
I mean, if you really want one, you can get Rumus and then just put the Pueblo board on the turntable that comes in Rumus.
That's true. Mixing games. Mm-hmm. All right, my number 2 was not even on my list when I first did this.
Wow.
That's because I was like a hipster. My number 2 is Puerto Rico. And when I first came in 2002, I was just getting into gaming. So I went to the new website, Board Game Geek. It had only been around a couple years. And I said, I must have the number 1 game. The number 1 game was Puerto Rico. I was like, all right, let's play it. We played it, and I was like, okay, that was good, but it wasn't like amazing. I mean, Zombies is a much more fun game than that, which was also in the same order that I had gotten. But as time has gone by, every time I play Puerto Rico, I realized just how amazing the game it was. I got a video game version of it from Eagle Games back in the day. And I played that to death. I just kept playing it. It was just very fun. And I really like it with the expansion that came out. But even without the expansion, it's good. I will say that it is a slightly fragile game. If you have one player who doesn't know what they're doing, they might help someone else win.
True.
But beyond that, in this game, you get to pick something, and then everyone else gets to do that same thing after you, but just not as good as you got it. Mm-hmm. Great concept. Love it. Great game. Puerto Rico, and it was, I think, Eric's number 4?
My number 4 this time. It was my number 7 the last time we did the list. I was feeling a little of that fragility, and so that's why I put it farther down on the list. It's gone. It's inched its way back up a little bit more. I've played it a few more times since then, and I can appreciate the wonder. It's still not my favorite, obviously, but it's such a solid design, and introducing that concept of I choose an action, I get a better version of that action. But you guys get to do it too. That's been used in so many other games since then. It's good to acknowledge the pioneering nature of that mechanism. Very cool game, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I think maybe you're doing what I do now, and you just don't play it with new people.
It could be. It's been a while.
And finally, number one.
And my number one, which I'm wondering if this is the one Tom was mentioning before, that's Age of Steam, which is still my favorite iteration of the system, although I'm slowly coming around to Steam as being maybe a cleaner version of the whole thing, but I like the crunchy nature of Age of Steam. I like the feeling when you finally become profitable. It's difficult, and in some maps it's nearly impossible. But when you manage to become profitable in Age of Steam and you can get that 5 or 6 point delivery near the end, that feels really good. And getting to that point, I think, is worth it. It's a good time. It's a well put together game, Age of Steam. My number one from 2002.
Yeah, I mean, it is the game I was talking about. It's fine. It was great. It was in my top 10 for a while, but then I played Railroad Tycoon, and then I played Steam, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. And then the community of Steam just got more and more to the point where I was like, oh, man, these guys are so good. I just didn't have any fun playing it anymore.
Okay, yeah.
So I like the more sprawling, open nature of Age of Steam.
Of Steam.
Of Steam.
Railways of the World.
Tycoon. Steam is pretty tight, like Age of Steam. But Age of Railroad Tycoon is much more open area, and I like that more.
Which is now Railways of the World.
Yeah, it's very confusing. All right, my number one is Wallenstein, which I think Eric still has not played.
No, I've played it a few times. It really, there's something about this. You go on. I don't like it.
That's fine. I can understand why someone wouldn't like it. Of course, whenever I talk about the cube tower, which I like. You drop cubes out of a tower, and that's really cool and neat. But it essentially is very similar to rolling dice, right? But what I really like about the game, the cube tower is amazing, but it's fun because each turn you select what actions you're going to take with all the different territories you control. And then some territories you're taxing, some territories you're moving troops from one spot to another, some territories you're building buildings. It's like a big Euro version of Risk. And I just really like that.
That element is I think what I don't like about it. You've got that grid with, let's see, it's the provinces. You're matching up the actions and the provinces that you have control of, and you can only do a particular action so many times. I think it's only once, right? Like if you have a taxing action, you can only do that in one of the provinces that you control.
That's correct.
And that, I don't know, it's just something about that mechanism never clicked with me, and I just found it oppressive. So this one never worked for me. I can't even say this is in my early teens. I just never enjoyed Wallenstein.
Fine. I will not even give you grief on that.
All right.
I'm in a generous mood.
Oh, thank you so much, sir.
No, but I really can see how people would not like that.
Yeah.
Now, if you said like you didn't like Pueblo, well, actually, I can see how people don't like that one either. I'm trying to think of a game on my list that I'd be like, why don't you like this one? Oh, yeah, Lord of the Rings Confrontation, but you haven't played that one.
No.
So, all right, let's see what our contributors think.
This is Brian from Cult the Old. I'm going to go with Wallenstein. Much more than a dudes in a map game. More complex and long, but really fun. The cube tower is outstanding. I love the whole they could revolt on you thing, in addition to the little pockets of influence you have all over the place, where some areas you can abandon in trying to get more victory points and just protecting your victory points. Lots of fun. Long game, but lots of fun.
Hi, the Broken Meeple here, and just looking at how few games I've played in 2002 is a testament to just how far we have come in board gaming over the last 7-8 years. But Puerto Rico has to be my number one pick for 2002, an elegant, easy to follow Euro game, but with a good amount of strategy and tactics. The expansion made it better with variety. Granted, it's probably a bit dated now, but still one that I would happily play if someone brought it to the table. Puerto Rico.
It's Roy Candy from Epic Gaming, and for me, it's Settlers of Canaan. This was the biblically themed version of Settlers of Catan, which I actually played a long time before I ever played Catan. It played very much like Settlers, but you were building a temple also with some of your resources, and then you could gain king's favor and all sorts of cool biblical things. It's crazy to think about the game because I was only 15 when this game came out, so it definitely has a whole lot of nostalgia for me. So for me, the best game of 2002, Settlers of Canaan.
Rolling Dice and Taking Names, Tony and Marty, 2002, best game ever, Puerto Rico. Oh my gosh. Of course it's number one for me. Marty?
Yeah, we aren't going to be the only ones that are saying this, but Puerto Rico is still a game that my friends ask for when they come over and want to play it. Love that game.
Hey, this is Paul Owen of Dice Tower News. One game from 2002 stands head and shoulders above all others, and that is Puerto Rico. Almost everything that happens in this genius design of a game is a product of player decisions, and yet it never falls into a rut. Every game is fresh, and subtleties of strategy emerge all the time. People may argue that there's a set opening, but for me, this neoclassic has never lost its luster. Best game of 2002, without question, Puerto Rico.
Hello, Jackie here. Being not by any mean an admirer of Puerto Rico, 2002 wasn't great for me, but my favorite game from that year is Bang. I don't play it often anymore, mainly because it needs a lot of players to be interesting, but it takes so long if you play it with a lot of players. But it really was refreshing and new when it came out. I played it, I think, over 100 times, so kudos to Bang.
Hey everybody, my name is Eric Teo from Push Your Luck Podcast and Push Your Luck Video. And my favorite game from 2002 is Mexica. Now, Mexica is designed by Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kramer, the dynamic duo who brought you a lot of many good games. And it is part of the Mask trilogy. So when we first got a board game last time, the box itself has a mask on it. It is very good, it's very fun, there's a lot of little things to it, and it's a lot of plastic pieces. It has since been reprinted by Yellow, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find. So do give it a try.
This is Professor Scott Rogers of Biography of a Board Game. And what was my favorite game of 2002? That would be WizKids Superheroes Miniatures game HeroClix. Its fans describe it as superhero chess, and while the game started a bit rough both in gameplay and miniature quality, it evolved into a lovely and complex strategy game with an unmatched depth of character selection from both the DC and Marvel universes. You can play as Superman, Spider-Man, Firelord, or my favorite, the Batman villain, the Killer Moth. It has a lively player community, and I even ran a rumor website and database called WhoClicks. You might remember it. The game is still going strong and worth checking out. So that's my favorite of 2002, HeroClix.
Hey everyone, it's Mark Zielinski. Favorite game of 2002. Well, I know there's a lot of popular games that came out that year, but my favorite was Star Wars Epic Duels. And this came out by Hasbro and was done by Rob Davio and Craig Van Ness. Yes, this is set in the Star Wars universe. It had some card-driven fighting mechanics. It's all about epic duels and fighting. And at one time, you could find this game for $5 in the clearance rack at Target. Now you can find it for $147 on Amazon.
I'm feeling a little bad because at some point I sold Star Wars Epic Duels for around $50, I think. And now hearing Mark say I probably could have gotten more. But now that my youngest is like super into Star Wars, I probably could get some major dad points if I still had that copy.
Yeah, you're right. Your kids would really like that one, I think.
They probably would.
This was in my top 20. I certainly considered it. Certainly thought about it. So, and Roy mentioned Settlers of Canaan, which was in my original one, but as time has gone by, it's just another variant of Catan. It just happened to be the first one I played, so I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the People's Choice. Number 10 was Hammer of the Scots. There's a lot of block games from Columbia Games. They're called block games because they're blocks. You don't necessarily know what your opponents have. Hammer of the Scots is probably the best well-known of all these games. So, no surprise to see it on the list, except I didn't know that many wargamers listen to us, Eric. They must be doing it for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Number 9, Pirates Cove. Number 8, Odin's Ravens, which I considered.
Yep.
Number 7, Lord of the Rings Confrontation. Number 6, Carcassonne Hunters and Gatherers.
Yes.
Now, if you remember, Eric, this one always intrigues me because in 2002, I would be like, ooh, there's this new game called Carcassonne. It had come out in 2001, right? Or 99, yes. I forget. It was very close to that time frame.
Yeah.
And every time I'd mention Carcassonne, people would be like, Carcassonne Hunters and Gatherers is so much better.
Yeah,
so much better.
It's the better system.
Everybody I would talk to online, they were all saying that Hunters and Gatherers was the way better system. And you know which one people play today? Not Hunters and Gatherers.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it to prove any point at all. It's just interesting to me that somewhere along the line it suddenly disappeared. Was it because they only came out with a minor expansion for it, but they came out with 287 expansions for Carcassonne?
Yeah, I think Hunters and Gatherers also faded away. But Carcassonne stayed in print.
Yeah, no, I know that had something to do with it, but people were talking like, oh, this is a much better version than Carcassonne, and there's probably people who will still say that today, but I'm just not hearing that much anymore. And now there's like 10 different versions of Carcassonne.
Right.
And every once in a while I'll play one and I'll go, hey, this one reminds me of that Hunters and Gatherers. Remember that one? We used to play when we were children. Eventually we're going to get to that point on the show, right? We're going to be talking about games. We'll be like 30 years ago, and some of our listeners are going to go, before I was born.
I think that happens now.
Well,
I think it
15
happens
years,
now.
that's only for like young kids listening to our show.
Yeah.
But okay, anyway. Number 5 is Mexica. Number 4 is Wallenstein. Number 3 is Age of Steam. Number 2 is Bang, which surprised me because I didn't think that this one would still get that kind of staying power.
Yeah, I think the people still like it.
And number 1, by a mile, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Easy.
One of our contributors wrote in and said, if 60% of the contributors don't say Puerto Rico, I'll eat my hat, or something to that effect. And I think he was right.
He was close. All right. I don't want someone to eat a hat. That's a terrible thing to force.
Yeah, don't eat a hat. That's a terrible thing to do to a hat.
Well, it depends what the hat is. What if the hat's made out of chocolate? Okay, we're getting loopy. It's time to end this. But before we end it, folks, there's still minutes left in the Dice Tower fundraiser.
Unless you're a day late in listening.
In which case, well, you might still want to go check it out. It might still be around. You never know. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode, number 493, was recorded on January 26th, 2017. Coming up next week, what has been your most influential game? Find out what our contributors have to say. Support for this podcast comes from listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. Find out more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom and me, with production assistance from Jason Thompson, Itai Perez, Eric Matthews, and Rob Seary. Our theme was composed by Timothy Pinkham. Our modern retelling of the classic story of Rumpelstiltskin is sponsored by Straw and Gold 2nd Edition. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. We love feedback. Visit the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com. Email us at Dicetower@gmail.com or follow us on Facebook. And of course, you can find more from the Dice Tower Network, including Board Gamers Anonymous, Board Game Corner, the Push Your Luck Podcast, Rolling Dice and Taking Names, the Geek All-Stars, Dukes of Dice, the Portal Gaming Podcast, and Board Game Breakfast at Dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. So what other DVD games have you totally shunned? I mean, are you no longer playing Monopoly Tropical Tycoon?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, should I keep Monopoly Tropical Tycoon? I mean, we have one DVD player in the house and our big TV. I could go do that, I guess. And I'm just now getting rid of the 2 Macs that have the CD/DVDs in them.
Oh, yeah. That is interesting.
And once those are gone, that's it. I'm not buying some external DVD.
That's true.
player.
Some intrepid board game geeker needs to rip that DVD into some sort of branching, web page or a way to have the randomization. How can you do that off of a web page? I'm sure you can, but would anyone put in the time?
We're gonna get an email. This is where it comes down to. Someone's gonna email and be like,
"I told you."
That's why apps and board games are bad. Because eventually you can't play them anymore.
We've just
it's coming.
disproven our own argument.
No.